So next I'll invite Sir Badal Chatterjee, examining the accountability of Indian civil servants within the framework of legal regulations, a critical study.
Good afternoon. My name is Badal Chatterjee. I am a resident tutor and guest faculty at the National University of Advanced Legal Studies, NUALS, Kochi. Thank you, Girish sir. Thank you, Prakash sir, for giving me this opportunity for presenting my paper. I'll be presenting the paper on the accountability of the civil servants in India. It is widely recognized that the governance in India today face a serious crisis of accountability. Accountability failures have meant that absenteeism, incompetence, inefficiency, and corruption characterize every core service that the state is obliged to deliver to its citizens. A well-functioning civil service helps to foster good policy making, effective service delivery, accountability, and responsibility in utilizing public resources, which are the characteristics of the good governance. During the British Raj in India, civil service played a dominant role in the administration. The civil services in India, as we currently know them, are heavily based on the Indian Civil Service, ICS, of the British era. Although the governing ideology of the independent India was a democracy, the British administration was colonial. The administrative structure of India after independence, however, remained similar. It can be said that the civil services as a whole has maintained its status quo instead of sweeping changes in the social and the economic scenario. In recent times, there has been an increasing concern in India to develop effective civil service ethics, code of conduct, transparency measures, ethics and integrity systems, and anti-corruption agencies. In view of this, there's a need being felt to focus on three specific areas which are directly related to the problems of internalizing integrity and ethics in the civil services. They are as follows: anticipating specific threats to ethical standards and integrity in the civil services. Number two, strengthening the ethical competence of the civil servant. And third, developing administrative processes and practices which promote ethical values and integrity in the civil services. In the many countries around the world, civil servants exercise many powers in discharging their functions based on the authority incorporated to them. All the democratic countries like USA, Russia, etc. have developed systems and procedures of checks and balances on the powers of the administration so as to ensure proper use of power. The French, Russians, British, and Germans are famous for their contribution to the modern bureaucratic system. In the modern times, Australia, Finland, New Zealand, and South Africa are credited with progressive reforms to their civil service systems. These democratic systems can broadly be termed as mechanisms that promote accountability and the transparency. To ensure the transparency and the accountability for performance is not a simple task in any government. There are various complexities involved in making civil servants answerable for their outcomes. Just as it is impossible to know when a swimming fish is drinking water, so it is impossible to find out when a civil servant is stealing money. The public officials have a close relationship with the citizens through a variety of services they provide. So the maintenance of the ethical behavior is a very important aspect to it. To ensure that there must be good governance, it lies in the effective implementation of its schemes and programs for the attainment of the goals of the society. Although enacting the policy is the duty of the minister of the country, but even for that, he is totally dependent upon the executives whose experience provide the necessary knowledge for the policy. The public view in today's society is that the civil servants are unresponsive to the needs and concerns of the people in the society, and the government does not address this problem because the mechanisms to ensure accountability of the civil servants do not appear to be adequate. India could not achieve many Millennium Development Goals, MDGs, particularly in hunger, health, nutrition, gender, and sanitation. India's social indicators today are worse than the poorer countries such as Bangladesh. Besides, growth has not helped the most marginalized groups such as the tribals and the women. Now, there are provisions relating to the civil servants under the Indian Constitution. For protecting the civil servants from the political and the personal influence, the Constitution makes elaborate provisions relating to the services under the Union and the states. Part 14, that is Articles 308 to 313, deal with the matters of interpretation, recruitment, and conditions of service, tenure, major penalties and protections, creation of the All India services, and varying and revoking the conditions of the services of the officers of certain offices of certain services. The civil servants enjoy the constitutional protection of the doctrine of pleasure under Article 311 of the Constitution, whereby they are not to be dismissed, removed, or reduced in rank without an inquiry and a due process of hearing. Justice Kamaljeet Singh Garewal, however, discerns that the civil service has become a body where public accountability has been shunned. The time has come to drop the doctrine of pleasure from the Constitution and have a doctrine of hard work and honesty for them. Just like the maxim, the king can do no wrong, has been implemented, has been interpreted to mean that the moment the king does something wrong, he ceases to be the king. Now, the doctrine is quite irrelevant now, as the civil servants have safeguards and legal remedies. When in trouble, they rush to the administrative or the forces tribunal or the high courts and start long winding judicial process, which can go on for years. It is no surprise that the court dockets are full of service related cases. Under Article 309, the Parliament is still constitutionally bound to pass a law to regulate the recruitment and the conditions of service of the civil servants. But the proviso enables the President to make rules to regulate the recruitment and the conditions of service of civil servants until provisions are made by an act of the Parliament. 75 long years have gone by, and our civil services are still not under any act of the Parliament. Civil servants continue to serve during the pleasure of the President without any legislation defining the duties. There have been dozens of committees, commissions, and reports, and much has been written on the subject of administrative reforms, but there has been little or no action on the recommendations. There were reports from Satish Chandra Kota, to name a few. The judiciary is often criticized for the system of appointment of judges, but the executive run by civil servants. Now, there's accountability towards the public. The need for the institutions of the state to be accountable for its actions stems out of the social contract that the citizens share with the state. There are institutional provisions to ensure that the state respects this contract. On one hand, there are mechanisms for external accountability or accountability directly to the citizens. In democracies, we have Anand Pratap Singh, who was protected by four chief ministers. According to the CBI source, Singh had gold-plated taps in his bungalows in various cities across the country. With the help of his son-in-law, a senior official in the income tax department, Singh allegedly fudged tax returns and even forged documents to cover up the corrupt ways. He was charged by the CBI with fraud, forgery, and acquisition of wealth, disproportionate to his known sources of income. Then we had Meera Yadav. Meera Yadav obtained 4 Noida plots for her 2 daughters, her husband, and herself. One plot measuring some 500 square meters in Noida's most expensive sector, Palladial Bungalow, is currently under construction. She was found guilty by the CBI court and was sentenced to 3 years. Transfers is also one of the indirect alternative penal mechanisms. Now, Indian civil servants, there's this one Indian civil servant who has been moved 53 times for exposing corruption. Throughout his career, Ashok Khemka has suffered at the hands of his political masters for his refusal to compromise. The actions of those with vested interests have not been able to shake his indomitable spirit. Like, yeah, I've done a gap analysis thereafter, where I've history of the CBI versus CBI, which involved the CBI director Alok Mehra. But I'll not dive into further. I'll just give you a few suggestions which I have come across. Now, number one is to stop the menace of corruption and tackle the problem of corruption. The institute given an adequate protection, just like the level of protection which is given to the British under the British protection scheme under in the Western country. So with that, I rest my case. Thank you.